Hi, Michelle again. Um, Today we're going to talk about abuse, probably not in the way that a lot of people will be talking about it. There are some people who think, a lot of theories, that abuse in childhood or in early life are linked to PMDD, and there are some who don't. PTSD and PMDD are very similar, and there are a lot of crossover traits to the illnesses. A lot of us have indeed suffered abuse, but sometimes it's not necessarily the cause, but it can be an effect of having the illness. When your self-esteem is being battered, every month, you can tend to want, or not want, but you tend to be drawn to less healthy relationships, and you don't feel you're worth something better. And so a lot of times women will go into unhealthy abusive relationships. The link with the parents and or with the childhood, that's a little different. It is scientifically proven that between, while your brain is developing between 0 and 7 years old, everything that you experience, and whether or not you are held as a baby or you have affection as a family, does affect the way that your synapses and your brain develop and what connects. For example, if you read about codependency and the children of alcoholics, then they often talk about you have to retrain your thoughts and your processes because you grew up believing as a child that that was normal. So if you don't address it and you don't move on, then there is a good chance that you will continue to draw those kinds of people into your life and have more and more relationships with alcoholics because your brain developed to put the two transmitter receptor parts for love and abuse together. That happens with children who are physically abused, verbally abused, emotionally, alcoholic parents. It's really, really common. And a lot of children, a lot of people never find out or figure out how to fix it, and therefore repeat the behavior of their parents or seek partners who have that type of behavior. Well, PMDD is a lot like that. My mother had undiagnosed, untreated PMDD. Of course, it wasn't a name back then, but she did have some serious problems. And so when she was having a mood swing, it would affect me, as we do the same to our children. The difference is if you know it's an illness and you learn coping skills and you take care of yourself, you don't have to pass that on to your children. My son rarely ever hears my voice raised, and if it is, it's usually in traffic and not directed at him. I'm very, very cautious to make sure that I don't repeat any emotionally intrusive or negative thoughts that my mother would say out of habit, repeating her mother, or just out of her own illness and the things going on. I'm very careful with the words I choose and very careful to explain to him that this is a bad time for me. Let's not discuss this because we don't agree. And let's talk about it when mom's in a better place. If my mother had had those skills, things would have been easier. Things would have been a lot easier. But when you don't know what's wrong, it's really hard to cope. And I've talked before about not having the energy or the strength to push past what's going on in my head to explain to someone else what I need. Well, she was in that place, and I can understand that. She wasn't physically abusive. She wasn't locking me in closets. It's not something horrible. It's when a 6-year-old child wants a hug and her mother doesn't. It's when you want to talk to your mom about something and all she can do for a week straight is read. She would read a novel a day because that's where she was. And I've been there too. I've had it so bad that at one point I read the entire Harry Potter series 3 times through without a break because reality was too difficult to deal with fantasy was better. And with the, the things she chose to read and the things I choose to read, it's kind of comforting to find people who maybe have it a little worse than you do, and when you don't understand what's going on, it can give you some comfort. It's why a lot of people, I think, watch television and movies and video games. We all have things we want to avoid. It's really important when you have PMDD, and especially if your mother had it, to learn from her mistakes. You may not realize, if you have it, that your mother had it too, but look back. Think about her mood swings. Think about the different personalities. For a long time, before I knew I had PMDD, I wondered if my mother was bipolar. Now I know she wasn't, and I really sympathize for her. She passed away 20 years ago when I was 20. She was 43. It was cancer, but her cancer was driven a lot by self-destructive behavior, which a lot of us have done. I have stopped my self-destructive behavior. At 40, that's a pretty good accomplishment. I hope that the younger girls figure it out. And, I stopped quite a bit earlier. But self-destructive behavior like alcohol, cigarettes, negative thoughts, putting yourself in negative situations, keeping secrets, not knowing how to deal with the stress, it can cause things, illnesses, and it's my belief that those things are what killed her and how she got her cancer. It's really difficult when you're in a rage mode and you're in a relationship, especially if you're cohabitating. If you live together, it's really hard to not take it out on the person you live with. And so the other side of the abuse spectrum most people don't understand or know about is that women with PMDD are much more likely to abuse their partners, and men or women who are in relationships with other women are less likely to report it. So it's not common. The police are only called when things get really nasty, but it can happen. And we have to understand we do have some control over what we do, but we don't if we don't know what's going on and we don't have ways of coping with it. It can be as little as just yelling or ostracizing your partner or blaming them for everything, to physical abuse and physical attack in a moment of rage. It's something that people don't want to talk about. Men don't want people to know that their wives or girlfriends are abusing them. It is a stigma in our society. It's not all the time, and not every woman who does it has PMDD, but it's something to watch out for and to be very careful about, and it's a reason to seek help and therapy, counseling. For example, if you are normally a very calm, very happy, very peaceful, very loving person, but about every 3 months that rage hits you to the point where you're breaking things. Maybe you're not aiming them at someone in your household, but that's affecting your children. That can trigger problems within them. If you have young girls, they're going to learn from your example, and that's going to be what they do when their hormones affect them as teenagers. So the best thing we can do is forgive our mothers and forgive ourselves for anything we may have done in the past, and learn some really good coping skills. I myself meditate. I use a lot of art therapy. These are my son's art therapy. No, I do a lot of internal work, I guess you would call it. It's not a scripted thing. It's not from a particular faith. It's not from a particular class. It's not from a particular therapy genre. It's just myself pulling from what I know and working on myself. I do believe in Gestalt, so if you're looking for a way to help heal the past and let go of any abuse or suffering that you may have had, it's very important. Gestalt is something that, the Gestalt theory, you can work on letting go and forgiving. And I find it to be a little easier working on it from a therapeutic level and a visualization level than from a pure faith level, because sometimes that's difficult when you've been through a lot. Most importantly is accepting what we have and what we've been through, and realizing, hey, you know what? Maybe some parts of my life were really difficult, but look where I am now. And I feel good about the person I've become. So maybe it was just part of getting there. And all you can do is move forward to be a better person and to do better than the example you were given.